There was once a man who wanted to test the limits of AI. He wanted to see if Video AI by Topaz Labs could turn his 4K, musty, dusty and crusty footage into spectacular, beautiful and cinematic 8K video, all through the magic that is AI. However, he fell into a trap when he discovered he didn't know jack shit about the software.
This is my first time opening it up. I wanted to go through this with you, so we're doing it like together, you know?
Frustration.
There has to be a better way. But how do I see all the clips?
Humiliation.
You know what? Wait. I'm a little confused, I'm not gonna lie.
And ultimately, his downfall.
I'm quite confused, because I am very confused.
He reached out to customer service and withdrew with shame from his working abode.
I have no idea. Hello, I've had some time to calm down, reflect, talk to customer support because I realized going into a piece of software knowing absolutely nothing about it is not a good idea. So now that I've learned by watching like 5 tutorials, I can now tell you with confidence how to use Video AI by Topaz Labs. A quick disclaimer, Topaz Labs did not pay me for this video. I actually reached out to them because I felt like this program would genuinely solve a problem that not only I am having, but also you might be having.
So what the hell is Video AI? Video AI is basically a piece of software that uses different AI models to do different things to your footage. I'm aware that AI is a bit of a yes and no sort of subject in terms of the creative industry, but one thing I will say on it is that used in the right way, it can definitely be a very helpful tool to create more interesting shots. Video AI is a software that can enhance your footage in different ways. It can turn your 1080p or 4K clips into 8K clips, and through pure wizardry, because I have no idea how the hell they do it, it can turn your real-time 24 or 25 frames per second footage into 60 frames per second, 120 frames per second, or even 240 frames per second slow motion footage, or even higher really. It's just crazy. And it can do things like stabilize your footage, denoise your footage. It can turn SDR footage into HDR footage as well, which I haven't tried out because I don't have an HDR monitor. Now, where I saw the most value were in 3 places: the upscaling, the slow motion, and the denoising. In this video, I'm going to focus more so on the first 2 because denoise is pretty cool, but it works. That's all you need to know. The first 2 though, I feel are much more interesting, so I'm going to play around with those a lot more. Because with those 2 things alone, you can turn your camera into a camera that costs maybe 4 times as much. And what I mean by that is, look at the price of the Sony FX3, the Canon C80, the Lumix S1R Mark II, or the S1 II. They all cost from like $3,000 to $4,000 or even more dollars. And yeah, it's because they've got the higher end features. It makes sense they cost what they cost. I think that's fair. But not everyone can afford that, plain and simply. And to a degree, some of those features may not be worth the extra $1,000 to $2,000 to $3,000 when your camera does majority of what you need already. For instance, my S5 Mark II does 99% of what I need, really. The one thing I do truly want my camera to have is an uncropped 4K 120, just because then I have a bit more creative flexibility, and that was a feature I truly enjoyed when I was testing out the S1R Mark II, the video of which you can check out at the end of this video. So wouldn't it be cool if I could do 4K 120 without a crop with my S5 Mark II? Or how about 6K 60? Or 8K 120? What if?
Now let's get into some clips I've run through Video AI, and I am very excited to say for the very first time that this segment of the video is sponsored by Into the AM. I've actually been wearing them for this entire talking head and a good bunch of this video, apart from when I was in the UK because I didn't have the clothes yet. And not only are they comfortable, and genuinely I mean that, they're soft, they're stretchy, they're kind of like muscle fit, so I appreciate that. They also don't break the bank, which was something I was hugely appreciative of, because after this video I may as well just buy some more. So I'm spending the sponsorship money on more of their clothing. Does that make sense? They have a variety of things from graphic design t-shirts to basic t-shirts. Now, I'm a huge basic tees guy. I like just a good fitting t-shirt that looks nice. I like experimenting with different colors, and I also like just having like a plain white or a plain black t-shirt. And thankfully they have everything that I wanted. They also have nice fitting shorts, which now that I've moved to Bangkok is exactly what I need. But when I was based in the UK, they also have jeans. So if you're in a warm or cold country, they've got you covered. covered. They've also got tank tops, hoodies and jackets, joggers, shorts, headwear, underwear, activewear, and all sorts of bundles so that you can save whilst buying multiple items. And on top of this, you can get 10% off with the first link in the description below. It is an affiliate link as well, so I hugely appreciate the support, guys, as always. And thank you to Into the AM for sponsoring this segment of the video. This next chapter of the video is called How the Hell Do We Use Video AI? Now, there are a lot of things we can do with this software. I mean, there's a lot of different AI models to choose from, and different models give you different results. The other thing I learned as well was that depending on what you're doing, you may need to change the codec that you then render that clip into. So for example, H.264, which is what I'm recording this talking head in right now, is probably what you record most of your footage in as well, is not the best codec for higher frame rate footage. If you want to do stuff like 60, 120, 240, or even higher frames per second, H.265 is what you need. And that can cause problems when you're trying to push H.264 within video AI. And that's kind of what was happening with this shot of Arlo. I was getting these weird artifacts, and I sent the clip to customer support and they were very responsive, very helpful. Thank you guys. And they sent me back what they did, and I realized all I had to do was untick one box. One box. It isn't a genie in a bottle, but it is pretty damn magical, if I do say so myself. The things it's able to do in terms of slowing footage down and enhancing stuff to like all the way up to 8K, for example, it really does work. I was very, very impressed. It's not going to turn any rubbish clips into an award-winning film. I mean, after all, a polished turd is still a turd, but it can make stuff look a hell of a lot better than it did at the start. One thing for sure is giving video AI good clips from the get-go helps it do a better job. If you nail things like your exposure, you have smooth footage because you're steady with your hands, you used a gimbal, and things are sharp to begin with, as in it's in focus, then everything you're going to do on top of that, be it slow things down or enhance it from 4K or 1080p up to 8K, that's going to give video AI the base it needs to do as good of a job as it can. Now, I do appreciate that video AI are very clear about what does and doesn't work with the software. For example, there's two instances of footage that just straight up will not work. One is clips where there is a very, very quick and sudden change of movement. It cannot magic frames out of existence, which is funny because it kind of does. But in this example here of this bird flapping, literally in a 2-frame difference, you can see how much the bird has moved. It's just impossible. It can't just create like AI imagine frames out of thin air that are so realistic and match your footage exactly. That's a bit much. That's a bit crazy. The other instance is where something that is patterned that then has this water pattern that, shines in pools and when the light shines through and stuff. When you have that going across another object that is patterned like a seal in this example and is moving, that pattern on the seal can then warp a little bit. That's very, very niche, but if you do like swimming pool content or ocean content, good to know, I suppose. It doesn't affect me, but the first one, the sudden change in movement, I feel like that would be a bit more applicable. Now, whilst that segment was playing, you were watching footage that I had run through video AI. Now, I chose to either enhance, aka upscale the footage to a higher resolution, or I chose to slow it down. Some footage I did do both, but one thing to bear in mind is video AI is very, 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 very computer intensive. Now, I'm aware that because of the title of this video, it's kind of a bit tricky. If you're looking to make your budget camera better using this software, it could possibly be a bit of a bottleneck if your computer or laptop isn't that good or that new. Now, before I get into the specific settings I use for each of these clips, I bet you're asking me one thing, because I asked it myself. How is this any different to optical flow in DaVinci Resolve or Premiere Pro? And funnily enough, it actually is different. Optical flow with the enhancements of DaVinci Resolve 20 from the motion estimation and the retime process and everything, it does a really good job, but there are key details that actually make it something I wouldn't use all the time, whereas video AI's results are much cleaner and something that you could genuinely use for a paid client shoot. I know I'm just a YouTuber here, but I used to run my own production company where I worked with clients that made millions of dollars or had hundreds of thousands of subscribers for their own YouTube channels. So I've done very high-end professional work as well as lots of social media stuff. And I can tell you for sure that these little details do get noticed by some clients, and that's where it's very hard to talk your way out of something like a jittery part of the clip that they then want to have replaced and you don't have an answer for. So video AI can help with things like that because the optical flow, well, let me just show you. So overall, it does a really good job here with the feathers and everything, her movement and everything. But over here with the fabric, on both sides actually, if we pay close attention, in fact, I'll just zoom in so we can see it even better. Watch the lines here. You can see this warping. And then as the fabric comes down, it literally jitters. Now, overall, I'd say optical flow's done a really good job. I'm quite impressed with how it looks, but because the part of the clip that is moving, her arms and the fabric, is a little bit jello-y and a little bit jittery, it's just not really good enough. Now, obviously, this is an extreme example. This is at, 10% speed. And it says 100% now because I've rendered it out into place, so that's why. But let's see what video AI did because, well, it just did it. I don't actually know to what degree this is slowed down. I actually think this is even slower than 10%. This might be like 5%. But you can see the detail in her arms and in the fabric. There is no jittering. There is no jello. I think there's maybe the smallest amount of blur at one point or the other. Just watch it come up here. So there's a little bit of blur there, to be fair. But then as it comes up, let's watch the fabric. Is there any jitter? Honestly, no. I think I saw the slightest bit of ghosting for a split second, but it didn't jitter. And especially if we zoom out and watch the whole thing, it's just much more impressive. The motion overall from every aspect is much more interesting. Even the intricacy of the feathers, the way that they're flickering around, they're smooth. And I think that's just where the difference is. Optical flow is very good, but video AI, on top of the fact it has all the other features beyond just frame interpolation and the super slow-mo stuff, the super slow-mo stuff is better. It's just better, plain and simple. Let's move on. I mentioned earlier how you can apply multiple effects to one clip. You don't just have to do one thing at a time and then re-import it and blah, blah, blah. That's very useful. Obviously more computer intensive, but you can do it. So this clip of Arlo here, I actually already filmed it in S&Q, and that on the S9 is at 1080p. I think this is 100 frames per second. Maybe it's 120. I don't know, but I want to upscale it to a higher resolution, 8K for example. You can do just like a 2x upscale or a 4x upscale if you want to just do a straight double or quadruple it, but I want to specifically go to 8K. You can see here, you can go to a custom resolution, which is very cool. I would go to 12K just because I could, but I don't want to be here for hours, so I'm not going to do that. We're going to set this to 8K. Now, as you can see next to each model, it says what they're for. Proteus being for most videos, so that could be the one where you just, it's the one and done, use that and go from there. Of course, though, if you have something else like Iris is specialized for enhancing faces, then there's other models: dedicated denoising, advanced 4K upscaling, denoise and sharpen, high quality animation upscaling for you animators, and then Thea is for high fidelity and detail. So think something like a bush with loads of leaves, for example, or like the fur of your dog perhaps would work pretty well. But I found that Proteus works pretty damn well. So I'm going to leave it on Proteus, and you can see there's a couple more options: add noise, recover detail, focus fix, grain, and then enable parameters. Now there's tutorials that go through literally every single option and what they do in detail. And whilst I would love to do that, this video would be like 40 minutes long. So I'm not going to. I'm going to go over what I use just to get the clips to work. And that'll give you the basis you need to get the clips the way you want it. So I'm gonna leave this on Proteus for most videos, and recover detail is just set to 20, so I'm just gonna leave it. Now, if your clip was a little bit out of focus, you can use focus fix. From there, I want to also do some frame interpolation. This is 25 frames per second because when you film in S&Q, even though the camera's recording at a higher frame rate, it then exports it slowed down. So very useful. But then if you forget what you recorded at, like I have, then you don't know what you recorded it at. But I want to slow down even more. Now, Apollo is their like, this works for most things for slow motion stuff, but they have other options like Aeon, where you can go to 16 times slow motion. Now, just below that, one more important option, you will see duplicate frames, and then it's ticked to replace duplicate frames. Basically, all I'm gonna say about it is if it doesn't work well, turn it off. If it works worse, turn it back on and try playing around with the sensitivity. It's a little bit like, I'm gonna leave links to their tutorials in the description below because these things get pretty specific. And honestly, once it was explained to me, I was like, I don't know if this applies to me or not, but it's something to do for animators. If you're an animator, then there you go. But I think most of my audience are filmmakers. So we're gonna continue. Duplicate frames, turned on, sensitivity left on. And then all you have to do is hit render for however long you want, depending on what kind of things you're applying. So in this case, we're doing the upscale enhancement and the frame interpolation super slow-mo magic. I'm just going to render out a single second, because that in itself is probably gonna take like 5 minutes. I'm obviously not gonna make you wait for that, but I have to sit here and wait for that every single time I make a little change. So I'll be right back. So as you can hear, the fans are kicking up, and honestly, I've had this program max out my fans very, very frequently. And awesome, there we go. This is a weird thing. I don't know why it doesn't show the whole second it's rendered out, because we can go over here and hit play, but then it will do that same thing. I don't know. But you can see it's done a pretty good job, like considering the amount of detail, how shallow the depth of field is, you know, every single piece of fur that Arlo has, every single blade of grass. And again, that depth of field is super duper low. I think it has done an awesome job. And then the really cool thing you can do is have a split view or a side-by-side view. Let's go for the split view here, so we can just see a comparison of like before on the left and after on the right. We can see here the amount of detail added to Arlo's eye. Before, after. Like, that is crazy. This was filmed in 1080p. So of course it's just, the detail just isn't there. It isn't there. And then boom! It's there! That is so freaking cool. Just for having crisper shots, like this is such a useful tool. Especially if you've got like a bunch of shots to do, then you know you can go to your sources and do it to all of the different clips. And is there a batch option? I think show export open command prompt. I don't know. If there's a batch option, that'd be pretty cool, but you know, each clip is different, to be fair. If we hit play, you can then also see the real-time difference between the footage that has been slowed down and the footage that hasn't. And it's very interesting because look at that. It's literally stuttering. That's how the original footage looks. If we just hit, you know, I'm just gonna go, let's do it this way actually. Oh dear, we still have some of that weird red banding though. That's unfortunate. But like, look at the difference here. It's literally whereas this clip on the right, let's ignore this little error, unfortunately, for a second. It's so slow and it's smooth. Like, that's so sick. Now, okay, let's address the error here because that needs fixing. Now it might be worth trying a different AI model. Let's try Apollo instead. That is better for 8 times slow motion. Anyway, earlier I changed it from 16 to 8. I think I forgot to show that on camera because I was then gonna try changing the AI model, but I thought, let me just try turning off duplicate frames and see how that helps. But anyway, let's now, once again, render out a second. And whilst I do that, this kind of leads me into, I don't know if annoyance is the right word, but kind of Something you need to bear in mind when you're using this software and kind of doing this whole process is it will add a considerable amount of time to your workflow. Now, are the results worth it? Yes. Confidently, I can say yes, easily yes. You get really sharp, upscaled footage that genuinely looks so damn crisp and clean, like you actually shot in 8K, which is so impressive. And you can slow footage down that wasn't even filmed at a higher frame rate to an incredible amount, and it looks good. Obviously, if you push things really far, yeah, some weirdness can happen. But for what you're trying to do, let's say we're filming in 1080p at 60 frames per second, because that's the best our camera can do. We can turn that into 4K 120 frames per second. We can turn that into 8K 240 frames per second. And let's be real here, no one's camera can do that. There is no mirrorless camera that's like under $3,000 that can shoot 8K up to 240 frames per second. That's some high-end cinema camera shit right there. So the fact that we can do that thanks to this $300 piece of software is insane. Yes, it adds time. And yeah, it can be annoying, but in all honesty, once you put in that time and you get all the clips out from it that you wanted to get out from it and make high resolution, slow down a lot, denoise, stabilize, you have some of the do you hear the fan? That's what I meant earlier. Like it's getting louder. Oh damn, your footage ends up looking so damn good. And I think that is worth the time investment. But ultimately, that's kind of where you have to make a choice. Do you save up the $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 to buy that, you know, the S1 Mark II or an FX3 or whatever that higher end, higher frame rate, higher resolution camera is that you want? Or do you just invest more time and less money into Video AI by Topaz Labs and get honestly better results that those cameras can't reach at the cost of, well, it takes a little while. Ultimately, I'd say that's up to you. I can definitely see myself using this software. In fact, I know for a fact I will continue to use Video AI for a lot of the content that you guys see on this channel. Maybe not for every single clip. I think that's a little bit silly, but there will definitely be a good handful of clips per video that I'm like, you know what? I want to slow that down even more. Or you know what would be really cool? Enhancing the details in this shot to the point it's like, whoa, like this is in my face level of details. Just to make things a little bit more like spicy, you know, a little bit cinematic. It's done. The results are much better. It's still doing that weird glitch where it only plays like a second, but I figured why don't we at least take a look at a side-by-side to just show the comparison. Like, look at how stuttery, right, the original footage is. It's playing back at like a frame a second, kind of. And it slowed it down so much. It's so smooth. I cannot get over, like, I'm gonna render this out properly so you can obviously see the results. You'll probably be seeing it already before me. But also, it's the detail brought back in Arlo's face compared to what it used to look like. Shaboom. I can't. This program is really damn useful. I think for filmmakers, it can save shots that otherwise weren't perfect or recover shots to the point that they're usable that were kind of bad before, being honest. Okay, so the big question is, now that we've gone through all the software, shown the results it can create and how amazing they are, the question now is this the solution? Do we need to buy the next like FX3 Mark II or the S1 II or the maybe hopefully S1H Mark II that hopefully comes out at some point? I'm kind of assuming it does at this point, considering we've got the S1R Mark II and the S1 Mark II. So I think the software does actually fix the problem that I'm having and maybe that you're having. My camera can't do 4K 120 frames per second with no crop. In fact, I can't even do 4K 120 frames per second. I can only do 4K up to 60 frames per second, and that's with a crop. Whether or not the crop is useful or not is another discussion, and whether or not the 4K 120 is cropped or not with the S1 Mark II or the FX3 or whatever is another discussion. The point is, those cameras can can do those incredibly useful, versatile, and cool frame rates. My camera can't, and whilst 4K 60 is still pretty good, 4K 120 does look sick. I mean, this shot here, like, I had a lot of fun with the S1R Mark II in the video where I tested it out, which you can check out at the end of this video, by the way. The shots look sick, and being able to just do that in camera with the press of a button is extremely just great. It's useful, it's quick and easy, and it's efficient because I could film a lot of things like that and have that versatility. But I can do that now thanks to video AI. I can even upscale my footage. I can even denoise it and stabilize it better than DaVinci Resolve or Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro can, because the AI models are dedicated to those specific tasks, so they do it better than any other software can. And the fact that we've compared true 8K footage to the 8K upscaling that video AI does, changing 4K footage to 8K, the fact it looks the same. Because no longer do you need to record in 8K and take up a huge amount of space on your hard drives or buy specific CF Express Type B cards to be able to even record 8K. If you want 8K for whatever it is, let's say you've got a client who has requested it, you can cheat. You can film in 4K because your camera can't do 8K, or you just want to save space on CF Express or SD or hard drives, and then you can deliver in 8K by using Topaz Labs video AI. Like, that's so cool. Yes, it might be easier or faster to just use an 8K capable camera, but obviously with all of these great features come a more expensive tool. Video AI is only $300. It is not a subscription, it is a pay once and you own it forever. And you get updates for a whole year. You don't get continuous updates like for however many years, but if they change something major in the next year from when you got the license, you then have support for those updates. I love things that are a buy it and you own it. I'm really done with subscriptions. So I really can't thank Topaz Labs enough for one, giving me access to the software for free to try out for you guys in this video, and two, for not being a subscription-based company. Now, that said, they do have other softwares that are subscription based, but they are different. They're different pricing. They're, for specific things. And what I like is that I can have access to creative tools and just pay once for it and have support for it for an extended amount of time. That's really great. So I think this software really does solve the problem I'm having. I don't think I need to worry about high frame rates or high resolutions for quite a while now. My next camera purchase might just be based off of, well, maybe some other things. But what I want to know is, does this solve your problem? Comment down below to let me know. And also, I just want to say a huge thank you for 3,500 subscribers. Absolutely insane. Like, what are y'all doing here? I don't know, it may not seem like a huge number to some people, but to me that's a big deal. Like, that's like a stadium or a handful of stadiums. I don't know, depends on the stadium. But yeah, thank you guys, truly, I appreciate it. And if you guys want to see more about the other videos I was talking about with the S1R Mark II and perhaps something else that YouTube's gonna recommend to you over here, click on one of those and I'll see you in those videos.